Hi everybody, welcome back to American Textbook Reading. I'm Brian Stuart. In this lesson we are continuing with our topic of earth science, and in lesson 10 we're going to be talking about rocks and soil. In this lesson you will discover different kinds of rocks and soil. Actually, in this lesson we will talk about 5 different kinds of rocks and soil. And we can see that rocks and soil have many different types, many different shapes, and many different features. Let's take a look at the first type. The first type, of course, is sand. Where do you find sand? You find sand at the beach. Now, be careful. Sand doesn't normally look like this, right? Okay, it looks like some kids came by and they made some sand castles. So sand is a material that comes from rocks. Did you know that? Right? If you go to the beach, you see a lot of sand. Of course, it looks like this in the background. Did you know that that sand used to be part of a larger rock? But over time, a long time, that rock breaks apart and it becomes sand on the coast of the ocean or on the edge of a large lake. And of course, there's lots of different forces that break that rock down to sand. But that's what sand is. There is, of course, a lot of sand on the beach. Enough sand to build many, many sand castles, right? So there's a lot of sand there. Okay, what's another type of rocks and soil? Another type is clay. Where do you find clay? Usually you can find clay near streams or lakes. It's wet, it's moist soil. Clay is sticky and soft material from the earth. Okay? It's very soft. You can change the shape very easily. You can push it into different shapes. Now, because it's moist, when it dries, it becomes hard. And in fact, you see what this person is doing with the clay here. We actually have a video of this. This person is taking a piece of clay and they're spinning it on a wheel. Let's take a look at the action here. You can see the wheel is spinning around and they're using their hands to shape that clay. Then they push their thumbs in the top like that, and wow, isn't that great? They're making a type of bowl or container. Now they could be making a cup, they could be making a vase for a flower, they could be making some type of container. But human beings have been making these types of containers. Well, this looks like a vase. Maybe they're going to put flowers inside of it. But look at that. Human beings have been using clay because it's a natural material. It's easy to work. It's very soft. Humans have been using clay to make pottery for a very long time, for many hundreds of years. So this is clay. Clay is a very useful type of soil for making things. Another type of rock or soil that we're talking about here is topsoil. We've talked about this before. Topsoil is very, very important to us. We use topsoil to grow plants. This is the soil nearest the surface of the ground. Topsoil is loose, it's soft. It's also rich in nutrients that plants need to grow. If there's not a lot of topsoil, plants will not grow well. In the desert, there is no topsoil, so plants don't grow there because there's no moisture, there's no topsoil. Topsoil needs to be in a place where there's lots of plants, lots of animals, and lots of water too. So topsoil is very important. Another type of soil, it's kind of yucky, right? And that's humus. Humus. Humus is a substance made from dead plants and animals. Right? Yucky. Dead plants and animals, right? They will decompose. They will change their form over time in the soil. Humus is in soil. But actually, even though it's yucky and kind of gross, even though it's also very important, it's part of the cycle of life. When an animal or a plant dies, their body falls to the ground and it dissolves. It goes into the ground, and the nutrients and the minerals and all the things that were a part of the body will go into the surrounding ground, and other plants will be able to use that material to grow well. So in fact, it's very important. American Indians used to, when they caught fish and they ate the fish, they took the rest of the fish and they put it in the soil next to their corn where they grew crops, and that helped their crops grow well. And that's humus. They were using humus in their soil to help their crops grow so that they could grow plants to eat. Okay. Now, another type of soil that's much, much different, or actually it's a type of rock that's much, much different, is granite. Granite is a really hard rock, okay? Very tough, very strong, very hard rock. This is a very hard, dull-colored rock. That's granite. But granite has many different colors and many different patterns, right? You could have granite. Usually granite is like this, very dull gray. But you can also get pink granite, white granite, dark brown, dark red, even black granite. And people will use granite, especially when they cut it into a sheet, very flat, and they polish it. It looks very nice, especially in people's homes. A very common use of granite is on the countertop in the bathroom or in the sinks for the kitchen, around the sink in the kitchen. They'll use granite countertops, okay? So countertops in the home, if you use granite, it's very nice. Countertop, I don't know, you see that? Countertop in your kitchen or in your bathroom. Countertops. They're usually made of granite. They look very nice. But it is an expensive material. Okay, let's move on. Now we've covered the 5 different types of rocks and soil. We have 2 more words to look at. One is a verb. The verb is to build something. I just told you about granite, right? People use granite in their homes. Well, you use different materials in your homes. You build something. Build means to make or to construct something. People build houses and apartments, right? These people here are building what looks like a house, or it could be part of an apartment building. So to build, to create something, to construct something, usually a building. Rough is our other word. Rough is an adjective. When we use this word to describe something, it is rough. What do we mean? Rough means having a surface that is not even or smooth. Remember, I just told you about granite, right? When people cut granite, if you see granite in the wild, it's rough, right? You run your hand over the surface, it's bumpy, right? It's not smooth, it's not soft, it's rough. Well, if you take the granite and you cut it in sheets and you polish it, right? Then it becomes very smooth and it becomes very even, very flat. But we have to we have to use tools to cut the granite and to polish the granite. Naturally, granite is very rough on the edges. Lots of rocks are very rough around the edges. They are not smooth. Okay. Let's take a look at a chart here. We're looking at 2 types of material in the ground. We're looking at rocks. We're looking at soil. Okay, so different types of rocks, different types of soil. Remember, rocks. A rock is a hard, non-living thing, both are non-living, that comes from the earth. And then we have some more details about rocks. What are some more specific details about rocks? Well, all rocks are made of minerals, right? Rocks are made of minerals. Rocks can have different shapes, so they can be round rocks, they could be long, tall rocks, they could be flat, long rocks. They have different shapes. They have different sizes, right? Some rocks are big, some rocks are small. And they have different colors. I used granite as an example, right? There are lots of different colors. You can have white rocks, brown rocks, black rocks, and, different colors in between. Red, maybe pink. You have lots of different colors in rocks. Some rocks are smooth. Some rocks are naturally smooth, especially if water or wind has been eroding them, right? We talked about erosion in a previous lesson. But if sometimes under the stream, the rock can be very smooth. If you pick up a round rock from a stream, it's very smooth on the top of it. But rocks can also be rough. Like these rocks look like they just broke apart. So they're very rough if you move your hand on them. It's very rough. So rough is opposite to smooth. Rough and smooth, they are opposites. Okay, those are some details about rocks. Let's move on to soil. Soil is the top layer of the earth. You can see grass is growing here. Soil is this top layer right here. It's very good for the grass and plants to grow in. It is tiny pieces of rocks. So rocks, when they break apart, right, they come into very small pieces, and that's what they look like, okay? Now, of course, soil, if you have topsoil, that's where your plants grow. And your topsoil has of course, it has a lot of minerals in it that plants need to grow. Okay, so two types of rocks and soil, two types of ground, basically. Let's review the words that we've just studied. We have our words here: build, granite, topsoil, sand, clay, and humus. Okay, humus. We have the definitions here. Let's match the definitions to the word. Okay, first of all, we have a substance made from dead plants and animals, which is in soil. Dead plants and animals, yuck, right? It gets kind of gross, kind of slimy and wet, right? But like I said before, it's very important for a good topsoil, healthy topsoil, to be able to have plants grow in that soil. What is it called? Remember, it's a funny sounding one. Maybe not funny sounding, but you pronounce it humus. Humus, and that's humus, a substance made from dead plants and animals. Okay, number 2, the definition. A material that comes from rocks. What is a material that comes from rocks? We have build, that's a verb, that's not a material. Granite, granite is a rock. It's not a material that comes from rock, it is a rock. Topsoil, well, topsoil comes from rocks. So does sand. Well, let's see what we've got here. We have sand. We talked about sand is a material that comes from rocks. Actually, topsoil could fit here, but topsoil fits another definition more closely. So we're going to put sand here. A material that comes from rocks, sand. Sand is small pieces of rocks that have been broken down over a long time. Number 3, the soil nearest the surface of the ground, which is loose and soft. That is topsoil. So although you could put topsoil here too, because topsoil does come from rocks, but it's more closely, number 3, the definition is more closely defined to topsoil, because nearest the surface of the ground, it's on the top of the ground. It's topsoil. It's that soil that's on the top, which is loose and soft and good for growing plants. Okay, so let's continue. Number 4, a very hard, dull means not bright, colored rock. A very hard, dull colored rock. What did we talk about before? We talked about granite, right? We talked about granite is a very hard rock, and it's a very dull colored rock, except if you cut it and you polish it, sometimes it can be brighter, but you have to work it. Naturally, it's dull colored. Okay. Number 5, a sticky and soft material from the earth. Give you a hint. People use it to make containers like vases. You could use it to make cups. You could use it to make bowls, okay? Some type of container. It's sticky and soft, and we saw the person using it on the wheel. What was that substance? Do you remember? If you guessed clay, you would be correct. It's clay. 6, to make or to construct something, such as houses or apartments. So when people are making or constructing, make and construct mean the same thing. To make or to construct, these mean the same thing. It's also the same as saying what? What other verb means the same as to make or to construct? Of course, it means to build, especially when we're talking about houses and apartments or types of buildings, right? We're building, to build those things. Okay, so that's the roundup of our words. Let's move on to our chart. Our chart shows us where can we find rocks. So where can we find different types of rocks? And we use rocks for different purposes. We have 3 pictures here. They all show the different purposes for using rocks. Over here, we're using rocks to build a building. Here, we're using a type of rock to write notes with. Remember this from a previous class. And remember, this is a type of rock used to make statues, okay? Let's talk about buildings first. This type of rock here is limestone. It comes from limestone. So we can use limestone to make very beautiful buildings, as this cathedral, this small church. It's a small cathedral. It's a very beautiful church in the middle of the city. A limestone is more of a traditional material. It's very expensive. It's not very common. It's very expensive, and it's a little difficult to move around because it's so heavy. So it's not usually used to build houses, but people a long time ago put a lot of money and effort into building churches and place of worship. And cathedrals like this are usually made of limestone, especially in Europe in the Middle Ages a long time ago. So limestone is used to make buildings sometimes. Now over here, where we can find a type of rock in a pencil, right? You guys are carrying pencils around in your book bag, in your pencil cases. In the very middle of your pencil, surrounded by wood, is a mineral. And of course, we already talked about that, right? That's called graphite. And it's a very dark colored mineral, but it's very soft, isn't it? It's so soft that you can push it against paper and you can make lines. You can draw lines with graphite. And that's how we can take notes in class. And take notes on my lecture too, right? Okay. Okay. So the last one here, we're talking about a statue. This is a very impressive statue, by the way. This is a statue of Abraham Lincoln. It's the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. Actually, I was there about 4 or 5 years ago. It's a very impressive, very amazing statue. And you can see his famous speech on the walls behind him. The walls are also made of rock as well. This is called marble. Statues are usually made out of marble because marble, although it's a hard substance, it is a little softer and it doesn't break, it doesn't crack very easily. If an artist is making a statue out of marble, it's kind of soft. It doesn't break very easily. It kind of carves out, and they can make very nice shapes with the marble. Another thing about marble is that it absorbs light. And so when people make statues, especially of people, the light is naturally absorbed like in skin, and it makes the statue look lifelike. It makes it look like a real person. And that's why marble is very commonly used in statues. Let's take a look at a video of the Lincoln Memorial. And as you can see, it's very impressive here. This is the Lincoln statue of Abraham Lincoln at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. You can see the famous words that he spoke are carved into the rock behind him. Okay, now if a person was in this picture, they'd only be about this big, right? It's a very, very impressive, very big statue. And it was a very impressive experience for me to be there. If you have a chance, get to Washington, D.C. Take a look around the mall in Washington, D.C. On one end of the mall is a long, wide area of land. At one end is the Lincoln Memorial with the statue of Abraham Lincoln. Okay, let's move on. Now, let's take a little bit of a review test. We're going to choose the material for each picture. We have pictures of 3 different things here. We need to choose what material are they made of. So, our first picture is of a little doll, right? Now, at first glance, you might think it's made of cloth or something like that. But no, if you look at it carefully, it's not made of cloth. It's made of a type of substance that we get from the ground. It's a soft and wet substance, but when we dry it, when we put it in an oven and get all the moisture out of it, it becomes very hard. Now, normally we use this material, like I said before, to make bowls, to make cups, to make vases, but as you can see here, we can also use this material to make more fun and more interesting shapes and objects. In this case, they made a small doll out of this, and she's very happy, isn't she? Okay, so what is this made of? Is it made of sand or is it made of clay? You should choose clay. If this was made of sand, it would fall apart, right? It would fall apart too easily. It wouldn't last for a very long time. But this is made of clay, right? You can pick it up. It's very hard. You can put it down. You move it around. It won't change shape. Okay, number 2 is a picture of a building, right? And it's an old style building, right? Traditionally style of a building. And like I said before, we don't usually use this material to make houses, but we do use this material for important buildings like churches. And in this case, this looks like a government building. So what is the material that they used to build this building? A, humus, or B, limestone. I hope that you chose limestone. I would not want to be in a building made of humus. Ugh, it would smell, right? It's dead animals and plants. Ugh, that'd be horrible, right? And it wouldn't stand up. It'd fall down all around you and get you all slimy and wet. Ugh, that's terrible, right? So it's obviously not made of humus. It's made of limestone. Limestone's a rock, very hard, very strong. Okay. Our last picture here, we just talked about this. This is a pencil. What is this material that we use to draw with? On the inside of the pencil, surrounded by wood, is it sand or is it graphite? Well, obviously it's not sand. If you had a pencil made out of sand, you'd just leave a little pieces of sand on your paper. You pick it up, and all the sand would fall off. That would be crazy, right? No, we use graphite. Graphite is the material, mineral, that helps us create lines on paper, and the graphite sticks to the paper. So that's graphite. Okay, so those are three types of material that we can find in the ground. Here we have our true or false questions. So we need to choose, if the sentence is true, we circle true. If it's false, circle false. Number 1, topsoil is found deep underground. True or false? Well, think about the word topsoil. Top. At the top of the soil, is that deep? Is that really underground? No, it doesn't make sense. That's false, right? Topsoil is found on the surface. So topsoil is found on the surface of the ground. Not deep underground. It's found on the surface. Okay? 2, granite is pieces of dead plants and animals. Does that sound right? Remember, granite is hard. It's a very hard rock. Dead plants and animals are hard? No. Dead plants and animals are soft. They're sticky. They're wet. Ugh, right? Granite is not pieces of dead plants and animals. That is false. Okay? Humus is pieces of dead plants and animals. So if we wrote humus, that would be correct, but it's not that way. It says granite. So it is false. Okay, next one, number 3. There is a lot of sand on a beach. True or false? We saw the picture of the beach. Some kids were making some sand castles. That, of course, is true. There's lots of sand on the beach. So next time you go to the beach, play in the sand. Make a sand castle or two. It won't last long. The waves will come in and wash it away because sand doesn't last. But it's fun to look at for a day and fun to play around. Okay, we're going to take a break now, and we're going to move on to the reading section next. So stick around. We'll see you soon. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're going to go over the reading section for Lesson 10. We're going to be talking about rocks and soil again, of course. Our first sentence, topic sentence is, there are many different kinds of materials in the earth. So that's a good topic sentence. There are many different kinds. Obviously, this sentence or this passage is going to be talking about several different kinds, various kinds of materials in the earth. And we talked about 5 main kinds, right? We're also going to be talking about how to describe those. So some materials are rough. That's a description, right? And others are smooth. Remember, rough and smooth are opposites. Rough and smooth are opposites. Pandero, right? They're not the same. They're opposites. Okay? So we start off the passage by saying that there are many different kinds of materials. We narrow that down a little bit more specific by saying 2 types, rough and soft. So we've narrowed it down a little bit. Let's narrow it down some more. And to narrow it down some more, we can talk about the specific types of material that you find in the earth. Remember, there's 5 kinds. First one, granite. Granite is a kind of hard rock, very hard. It is very strong and good to build things. That's another word that we've studied, right? To build things. We saw how we use granite. Sometimes granite is used to build buildings. You can use it in your homes, on countertops. So granite is very strong. It's good for building things. We can make buildings with granite, and we saw some examples of buildings, right, made with granite. So that's one type of material. Another type is sand. Sand is a material that comes from rocks, like granite, right? When it breaks down, very small pieces, right? The smaller, the finer the sand and the softer the sand, right? So sand is a material that comes from rocks. Sand is very rough, right? Well, yeah, sand is rough. If you take it, you put it on your skin, you rub, that's rough. But sometimes it can feel soft if you're walking on it barefoot, if you walk along a beach. So it depends on how you use it. Sometimes it's soft, sometimes it's rough. There's a lot of it on a beach, isn't there? There's a lot of sand, especially a long beach. Beautiful white sand. Remember when I said the smaller the pieces of rocks, the softer it is. So if you see a nice, beautiful, white, soft beach, Oh, that's beautiful. That's paradise, right? That would be a very nice beach. So that's sand. Third type of material is clay. Clay comes from soil. It is sticky and soft. It's pretty wet, right? When you talk about clay, you can't really see the individual pieces of rocks because it's too wet, but it's soft and it's almost like playing with dough, like when you make cookies, right? It's almost like that. It's a very soft material. You can push it, you can shape it into many different shapes. But it becomes hard when it's dry. To make it hard, people will put it into an oven, right? And they'll cook it and get all the moisture out of it, and it becomes hard, and then it doesn't change shape anymore. It's fixed, right? But clay is sticky and soft, but becomes hard when it's dry, so we can use it to make many different things. A fourth type of material in the ground is humus. Humus is pieces of dead plants and animals. Right? So like I said, yuck, dead animals, dead plants are in the ground. That's humus. And humus, it usually comes from the topsoil. Humus is inside the topsoil, and that's our fifth type of material. Let's take a look at a video of topsoil, and we can see here's some topsoil with some humus in it. And look at how soft and how wet and sticky that is. That's really good topsoil, actually. That would be very good topsoil for growing plants in. And that's what farmers are looking for, of course, when they want to grow their plants, their crops on their farm. They want to get humus and mixed in with their topsoil so that it's very good for the plants. Okay. Sand, clay, and humus are kinds of soil. So our types of soil, three types: sand, humus, and clay. Types of soil. Soil is the top layer of the earth. The top layer of the earth. We can see that there. This soil isn't so rich. It doesn't have a lot of humus in it. It's a little bit drier, but it's still soil. Now, let's take a look at our reading skill. Our reading skill is to classify. We're talking about many different types of material in the ground, okay? So we're going to classify them. We're going to set them across into groups, right? And we saw that there's three main types of soil, right? So first of all, we have soil. That's our main group, right? That's our umbrella group. Soil is the top beep of the earth. We need to fill in the blanks with the words. Our words are beach, clay, humus, and layer. So, soil. Where do we find soil? It's in the top beach, clay, humus, layer, okay? Top layer of the earth. Because when you look at the earth, the ground, it comes in layers, right? The top layer is the soil, right? Underneath that, you might have rock. And then underneath that, you might have some more dirt or broken up rocks, and then another layer of rock. You have different layers. It's kind of like a cake, really. If a cake has many layers, right? It kind of looks like that in the ground. You can see the different layers in the ground. So top layer of the earth is soil. What is sticky and soft but hard when it is dry? Sticky and soft but hard when it's dry. Another clue, we can use it to make many different things like bowls, cups, vases, even dolls, as we saw before. So what substance is that? What type of soil is that? That, of course, is clay. So clay is our answer there. Now we have the next type, sand. Sand is a type of soil, but we need to fill in the detail, the missing detail about sand. There is a lot of it on a what? Where can we find a lot of sand? Think about that. If you go to the ocean, you find next to the ocean, we have a beach. So there is a lot of it on a beach. On the beach, you can find a lot of sand. You can play in it. You can run around in it. You can build sand castles with sand. Our last type of soil, we have clay, sand. What's the other type? It is pieces of dead plants and animals. Yuck. Yeah, yuck you want, right? Of course, we're talking about humus. Humus. Okay? So that is a type of, these are our three types of soil. Okay, let's move on to our comprehension questions. Number one, some materials are rough and others are, remember I pointed this out, what is the opposite, pandero, of rough? What is the opposite word from rough? If you choose topsoil? No. Smooth? Yeah, that's the right one. Dead? No, the opposite of dead is live or alive, right? So the opposite of rough is smooth. Some materials are rough, others are smooth. we're talking about different types of materials. This is a good supporting sentence for there are many types of soil. There are many kinds of soil. Some are rough, some are smooth. Or there are many different materials in the ground, right? So some are rough, some are smooth. Okay, let's move on to number 2. Where can you find a lot of sand? Okay, we have our choices here. A, on a beach. B, in humus. C, in animals. Okay, remember we just talked about this on the previous slide, right? I said, where can you find a lot of sand? You can run in it, play in it, build sandcastles. Where can you do these things? We can do these things on a beach, of course. In humus? No, we don't find sand in humus. In animals? Well, I hope not. What was the animal eating that they got a lot of sand in them, right? That would be strange, okay? So it's on a beach. By the way, that's an important point. Let me just point this out. We say on a beach. Don't say in a beach. In a beach is underground, right? You dig in the beach, then you're in the beach. But we run around on a beach. So the preposition we use is on a beach. Just a small point there. Okay, so where can you find a lot of sand? On a beach. You could also say, by the way, at the beach. Okay? And in that case, we're talking about beach as a concept. We're thinking about it. Everybody knows, oh, at the beach. So a couple of common ways to use beach. On the beach, on a beach, or at the beach. Okay? Okay, let's go on. Number 3. What is humus made of? What is humus made of? Remember, it's kind of yuck, right? It's not very nice, but, it's an important part of life. So what is humus made of? A, it is made of dead plants and animals. Yeah, that's right? We talked about that a lot, made a lot of jokes about that. B, it is made of clay and granite. No. C, it is made of sand, granite, and clay. No. Humus is made from dead plants and animals, okay? It's actually the one type of soil we're talking about that comes from living things. The other types of soil we're talking about come from non-living things, right? Clay is a type of soil. Granite is a rock. When granite breaks down, yeah, it becomes part of the soil, becomes part of the topsoil, but it doesn't make humus, right? Sand, granite, and clay. Sand and clay are both types of soil, and again, we have granite. Okay, so humus is made of dead plants and animals. That's to remember that it's made from live or things that were alive, living things. Okay, 4. Clay is sticky and soft, but hajiman. Okay, so we're looking for something opposite. It's sticky and soft, yeah, but okay, now we're looking for something opposite, right? But becomes very strong when it is wet. B becomes softer when it is dry. C becomes hard when it is dry. So we're looking for something that's opposite here, something that is opposite from sticky and soft. Now, wet is kind of like when it's sticky and becomes very strong when it's wet. When clay is wet, it's soft. It doesn't become strong, so that's not correct. That's not the right answer. B, it becomes softer when it's dry. No, remember when we were talking about clay, we said you can shape it while it's wet, but you put it in the oven to dry it out and it becomes hard. So it doesn't become softer when it's dry, it becomes harder when it's dry. It becomes hard. And that's C, becomes hard when it's dry. That is our correct answer, right? So clay is sticky and soft normally, but however, when you dry it out, when you put it in an oven, then it becomes hard, the opposite of soft. So but shows opposition. Okay, we have our final slide to go over as a review. Now we're talking, of course, of 2 different types of materials you'll find in the ground, 2 types of things you'll find in the ground. Of course, we have first here, we have a rock, right? Because a rock is a hard, non-living thing that comes from the earth. We're talking about rocks. What can we say about rocks? What are the details about rocks? All rocks are made of minerals. Rocks can have different shapes, right? Different shapes, sizes, and different colors. Some rocks are smooth. Some rocks are rough, right? On the top. These rocks are rough, right? But maybe over here it's a little smoother. Okay, now down here, what is this type? Remember, this is in layers. Of course, we're talking about soil over here. Soil is the top layer of the earth. We can see the different layers. This is a good picture for layers. One layer is here. We have a layer in between. This looks like rock that is breaking up here or compacted. Could be clay down here too. and then we have some more dirt. So we have different layers of soil here. Soil is the top layer of the earth. It's tiny pieces of rocks. Clay is sticky and soft, but hard when it's dry. There is a lot of sand on a beach. That's another type of soil. And finally, humus is made of dead plants and animals. So we have our three different types of soil here: clay, sand, and humus. Okay, well that wraps it up for this lesson. Hope you've learned a lot. It's kind of interesting talking about these different types of materials you find in the ground. We'll see you guys next time. Take care, everybody.